We are back from our break. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. And this is our last Wednesday of the month, and we celebrate Wednesday with Women and Wellness. And I have two special guests that I'm going to bring on today, Gabrielle Clark, better known as Gabs, and Dr. Nikki Johnson. So let's bring them on. I do not do all those little sound effects. You know how people have like the applause in the background? I haven't gotten there yet, y'all. I need a producer. So if any young person out there would love to help me, call me. That's all I'm saying. Just give me a ring because I need you. So I'm so grateful that you guys are taking out the time to come on the show today to really just talk to our women and young people about what you're doing in the community and where they can find you also. So Gabs, we'll start with you.
I am the founder of Affirming Reality. And right now my website is down, but you can find me on X at GabsClark5. And you can also email me, gabsclark@affirmingreality.com. And I help people parent their children into desistance from social transition. And what does that mean? That means that I help parents pull their children, their school-age children and young adult children out of the gender cult, just like I did for my own daughter. The program is working worldwide, and we are expanding. We're doing more things to try to help as many parents as possible. Hopefully in the future, we'll be able to teach some health professionals, medical professionals, and mental health professionals about the program and how to execute it so that their patients and clients can benefit from it as well.
Nice, nice. And Dr. Nikki?
Oh boy, who I am is a rather long explanation, but I will call myself a reformed physician. I believe that I have been called to be a healer. So that is who I am, kind of the crux of who I am. But what I am doing right now is quite a mix of a lot of things. I am educating our next generation of nursing students. I am also trying to educate the masses about what truly making America healthy again means. And so I do that on my X account at Not a Provider MD. And I have quite a long history of doing health policy advocacy with multiple organizations, some that I've headed, some that I've been a leader in, and some that I've just worked in. And I am working very closely with Gabs and Affirming Reality and helping to coach these parents to get their kids on the right path towards a healthy adulthood.
Yes, and I appreciate the work that both of you are doing in that space, because I don't think a lot of people really think about what the mental challenges that come along with a child that gets caught up in the transgender ideology. And it is an ideology. And, it's really unfortunate that we even have to have this conversation. My husband was like, President Trump had to put an executive order forth saying they're men and women. He shouldn't have had to do that, but he did. Right? That's how important it is for us to really get back to being normal. But I wanted both of you, whichever one you want to talk first, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And what, suggestions would you give to individuals that are either caught up in the ideology, or parents, friends, relatives, because we don't really think about the people that have to interact and how, their mental well-being of, and the challenges that come along with having someone caught up in that ideology. I'll let either one of you go first. I know it was a roundabout conversation.
Well, honestly, I think this is very this is great, and thank you again. Thank you for having us, because I don't think I said that, and giving us this opportunity to talk about this extremely important topic. I think what's happening right now is that a lot of people, parents, including activists on the other side of this issue within the gender queer cult, are thinking that the landscape is changing at the federal level because of executive orders and recently issued Health and Human Services guidance on children who are presenting with gender identity issues. What I think Gabs and I are doing is something that is not being talked about much or not being addressed much. And that is the cultural element that actually brings children to this position and parents to the position where they no longer are recognizing their children and on the brink of despair because they don't really have anyone else to go to for the help that they need to desist their children. We don't hear the term desist often at all, really outside of our own space. And that means to take a child who is having a gender identity crisis and get them to value who they are and accept the sex that they are actually born as is aligned with the belief about what their role is in the world and what their true, gender is in the world. We're not seeing that piece or that element addressed before the child even gets to that point. When they do get to that point, when they start to think about that, and what happens in the time period before they decide that they want to start using medications and surgical options to, what the term that they use is transition to the opposite sex. We are not addressing the cultural piece that led us to that point, and that is something that I think is still not being addressed. And if we want to give people hope, I think that we're the hope. I think that we have the right ideas to help people get through that and reverse the course.
Okay, thank you for that. And Gabs?
I always tell people first and foremost, get off of your devices. I mean, just ditch them if at all possible, especially parents who are trying to encourage their children, their school age children, to desist. And it doesn't necessarily have to be from gender ideology, because there's so much, our children are getting radicalized to do all kinds of crazy stuff. They're getting radicalized in all kinds of different directions. And escaping from the mind prison that is your phone, or social media, or whatever your device, even video games, escaping that when they're still young enough to care, and they haven't just succumbed to this new way of living, like so many other people have. So many others have just been captured by this, and they don't even want to fight it anymore because they think it's too big. It's too big of a giant to slay. If you are able to you yourself get off of your devices and model that behavior for your children, then you and your children are going to benefit from that much, much more in the long run. Communication improves, and it may be a little rocky in the beginning, because I can tell you, I am not super, super nice when I'm going through withdrawals from my phone, like so many others. Your family has to learn how to communicate again, with each other and with the outside world, and even with themselves, when they're not being influenced by their handhelds. And so I would say that as a start, and just in doing that, a lot more things will become clearer. And I think that, just like Dr. Johnson just said, we really are not talking a lot about what happens whenever gender affirming care is not an option. Where do these
Mm,
children go for the support, because they can't
right.
go to the therapist? The therapists are hell bent on affirming, even if that means that they can't get any kinds of medical procedures. Then those therapists still are advocating for this false reality, and this imaginary fantasy, of transitioning. And so you can't, you really do have to actively desist your children who are captured by gender ideology, because you can't just allow it to fester. It is fostering a delusion, and that is never good. There's a lot more harms from social transition than just, it's not just, funny nicknames and, dressing up like a rodeo clown. There's more to it than that. There's a lot of maladaptive coping behaviors that go on with social transition. And we see even things that border on child abuse and even child
Mhm.
sexual abuse that should be considered. I mean, they're making packers for 4-year-old girls, and for those people in your audience who don't know what a packer is, please, parental advisory. um a packer is a basically a fake phallus to put inside a little girl's underwear. I mean, what adult would do that? And these are being manufactured and made on and sold
Mhm.
on platforms, Amazon and things like that.
Yeah.
um so
Yeah.
it this is what social transition looks like in the real world. It's
Mhm.
not just silly TikToks and and funny nicknames. Um, it's a lot more dangerous than that. So desistance is paramount, and
Yeah. Yeah, it
getting
is. It
is
is.
often crisis.
What I think the thing that concerns me the most is the educators being telling the children not to talk to their parents.
Yes.
I don't know how much you guys can address that. I know, Gabs, that you actually had a court case that you went through, but this is happening, and they actually have state laws in California and in Washington D.C. where the children are not obligated to talk to the parents. The teachers are not obligated to talk to the parents, and yet at the end of the day, the parents are responsible. And if they don't go along with it, then they get the kids taken away. It's very confusing, but
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I mean, there's so I have not participated in a case, personally, with what happened with my daughter. My case was because of my son.
oh,
Um, but then I filed the first federal lawsuit against woke indoctrination in America, and that was primarily for compelled speech, from a civics class that was um, involving CRT, but it also did involve gender ideology as well. I mean, he was asked
okay.
to list his gender identity and his sexual orientation, something he did not want to discuss with a teacher that he's never met before. He just has seen on a computer screen. You know what I mean? That was, certainly he certainly didn't want to discuss it with that teacher, but he shouldn't have to discuss it with any teacher.
Right.
It's none of their business. And our teachers shouldn't be discussing our children's sexual preferences and things like that, at all. I mean, this teacher actually told her classroom her sexual orientation and her sexual preferences. I mean, that alone should be justification for that teacher losing their their licensure. But it's being sanctioned by by different states. I have, however, given my testimony in multiple amicus briefs for other cases throughout the country, because there have been parents who have filed lawsuits against their schools and their school districts when their children were being socially transitioned without their permission. But this is one of those parents' rights issues of our age, right? The biggest, one of the biggest, is socially transitioning our children, and even recommending medicalization of our children without the parents' permission. I mean, and I think this was kind of an offshoot of what was going on with abortion at some point, where our children, our daughters, were being actively advised to seek out abortions when it was discovered that they were pregnant, and not telling their parents. And this is an evolution of that, I believe. And I think that it is high time for parents to start taking more of an active role, not just with their school boards or with their the politics or their state governments or even local governments, federal government, but they need to start taking a more active role in their children's lives, so that they are their children's safest space in their children's minds, not just in their own minds.
Okay,
I'd
and
like to,
Dr.
I'd like
Nikki?
to piggyback on that, just because Gab's. I think that this is really an important issue, and it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, that the things that are happening at the federal level aren't addressing these specific state level issues. These state level school districts are using existing federal law and statutes like FERPA and Title IX to enact these policies that actually allow children to allow the students, teachers and schools to keep this information from parents. It speaks to the broader goal of the entire movement, the genderqueer movement, which I think is heavily aligned with Marxist ideology, or at least very deeply rooted socialist ideology that divides people into classes of oppression versus oppressed. And in that they truly and fundamentally believe that they are protecting these children as an oppressed class of people. They are protecting their civil rights and their individual rights. So they firmly believe what they're dishing out. And they're using existing laws to actually enact these policies. Parents oftentimes, just like any other social contagion type of an issue, believes that their child will not succumb to it, or that their family will not be a part of it. And this has been happening within the schools at the preschool level on up for many, many years now. It only came to light for us more recently during the pandemic, when we were watching our kids take Zoom classes and people were reporting what teachers were saying and doing. And then parent groups started taking deep dives to look at what was happening within the schools. And then they just stopped being secretive about it and were out in the open passing laws and policies to do this. Yeah. So it can happen to you. It can happen to many families. There are some particular vulnerabilities in families that allow this to happen. And that is one of the things that we try to tackle with Affirming Reality, is identifying these types of families, these types of children who are more susceptible or more vulnerable to this type of thing. And typically it is these children who are completely absorbed, or families who are absorbed in technology, devices, internet, They are using the internet for far more than just a tool to get through everyday life activities. They are using devices to and social interaction on the internet to replace live social interaction with humans. They are also using it to replace physical
Mhm.
activity and connections with
Yeah.
humans as well. So if you and your family especially and particularly wealthy families who can afford these types of children to have these types of devices, afford the amount of time that they can spend on it, or you're unfortunately very working families, people who work hard and are away from their children, you're not spending kind of quality time with your family doing activities together and understanding what's going on in your child's daily life. If you're not keeping that connection with the schools and understand what teachers are actually saying in the classroom, what curriculum they're actually teaching, even at the private school level, where my children are in private school level, there are certain state um, required or state offered programs to teach about sexuality and reproductive health and reproductive rights and however many quotations you want to put around it. These programs are offered and used as resources even at the private school level. So so the overarching um, recommendation here is that you, as a parent, stay connected with your child, both physically, spiritually, and mentally. Know what's going on, who is teaching them, and what they're teaching them, and what they are exposing them to.
Well, thank you so much for that. And thank you guys so much for just your wealth, breadth of, you know, knowledge in this space. Because to your point, a lot of individuals don't even know you exist. And those who have gone through this type of transition, they're just kind of left out there in this void. So I'm going to let you guys each have a closing words. And thank you so much again for joining us on Women in Wellness Wednesday. We'll start with you, Miss Nikki.
Well, look, I think I like to always give some hope. We do have a solution. Every problem needs a solution. Actually, I write a Substack every now and then, and the title of my Substack is called "There's Always a Solution." So if we're going to be complaining
Right.
about something, and understanding that there's a problem, that we should be looking for the solution, whether that comes from us or not. And I do believe that affirming reality does have a solution, and that solution does start with the parents. You, as the parent, if you're dealing with this issue within your family, you do have the power to heal your child and bring your child back. You do have that. You have the power. You have the ability to do that. Sometimes you just need a little bit of coaching. A lot of parents do have the natural instinct to be able to do this with their own child. It does take a lot of work. It is a lifelong commitment from the moment that child was in your womb or the day you decided to adopt. That is your lifelong commitment until the day you take your last breath. And so it is not going to be something that's always very easy to do. Um,
Mhm.
some cases will be a little bit tougher than others, but it is absolutely possible for you to reconnect with your child and help them to develop a normal, healthy adulthood, and to regain your family's overall connection and love and support.
Awesome. And Miss Gabs?
I would say I am living proof that that you don't need anybody else to make that decision for you. You can you and there is help available, right? There is help available, and you just have to be willing to seize it. You just have to be willing to fight very hard for your children. We send 18-year-olds off to other countries to go to war for our freedom. We need to be
Yeah.
ready to go to war for our freedom for our children as well. And no matter the cost. And I think that that was the approach that I took when both of my children were captured by this wokeness, when both of my children were being affected by the indoctrination in schools. And since then, I have helped hundreds, maybe even thousands of families regain some normalcy in their lives and fight back for the protection of their children. And so I think that we all have it within us, especially if you're an American. I feel like Americans have that have that combative and I don't know, rebel spirit.
Fighting spirit.
Yes,
Yeah.
that fighting
We at
spirit.
least have it in our ancestry. That's as much as
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
say
we've
I'm
gotten
gonna
a
say
little
this.
complacent these days. We got a little comfortable. Well, we'll just say that.
I'm gonna say that it's in our DNA. We just need to
Yep.
we just need to dig it out and revive it and take our power into our own hands and go and get our children back, and
Yes,
save our own society, save our own culture. It can be done.
yes.
Yep.
And thank you guys so much again for joining me on Women in Wellness Wednesday. And again, you guys can check me out here on Unfiltered Vision News, 7 to 9 a.m., bringing you the news unfiltered. And I'm so grateful for my guests, Dr. Nikki and Gabs, joining us today on Women in Wellness Wednesday. Thank you so much, guys. And we'll see you
Thank
next
for
time.
having us.
All right.
Thank
Thanks
you
again for having us. Take care.
Okay. And that those two women, they are amazing. And I'm so grateful that they got to share with us just their experience, just their breadth of knowledge within that space, because it is different for those going through the transgender ideology and really feeling alone in that space and really not knowing who to turn to. But Affirming Reality is out there. And like Dr. Nikki said, she's on X and so is Gabs. So just if you Google search either one, you will find them and you can definitely reach out to them for support.